What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Ethan Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is expanding COVID vaccinations and working to secure more test kits. That's as it faces its biggest wave of infection yet. Taiwan reported 3,058 new cases on Thursday, but the health minister says the peak is likely still to come. Zhang Van Triest has this report.
Health Minister Chen Shizhong came to Wednesday's daily COVID briefing with a warning. Taiwan's recent spike in COVID cases could soon get much bigger.
破案率月底就有可能了吧？如果要能够生活的限制不要那么的大，那当然是要走疫苗把它打好打满的路了。
The government's taking steps to make sure this happens. Late Wednesday, Taiwan approved vaccination for children aged 6 to 11.
就必须要先做家长同意书的一个调查啦。那这个部分就是变成说，可能他调查之后，再由教育局跟卫生局这边去安排进学校去校园去接种，所以这一块应该是5月初之后才有可能开始。
There are also plans to offer booster shots to those aged 12 to 17 and a fourth vaccine dose to those at least 65 years old, as well as immunocompromised adults and those in long-term care. Taiwan's COVID surge is also raising demand for test kits. President Tsai Ing-wen says Taiwan can make up to 400,000 kits a day. Taiwan's also bought 100 million from abroad, and it can import 870,000 more each day. Tsai's administration says it wants to cap prices at around $1.50 per kit, ensuring they stay affordable at a time when Taiwan needs them the most. Rick Yi and John Van Triest for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwanese pharma company finally has enough COVID patients to test a new drug that aims to help people recover. Pharma Essentia has begun phase 3 clinical trials of the drug known under the brand name Ropec. Taiwan's health ministry approved the medication for the third round of trials last year, but the company had trouble finding enough test subjects because there were few COVID cases in Taiwan at the time. Now, with the country facing its biggest outbreak yet, the company says it's once again recruiting patients. The medication is already approved in Taiwan for use in treating a certain type of blood cancer. Taiwan's government is continuing to ease COVID restrictions, but there's still as much confusion for people who are already in quarantine. In this report, James Chater looks into how the government's transitioning policy is leaving some in the lurch.
When 26-year-old Anders began quarantine last week after contracting COVID, the last thing he expected was a new roommate.
At 5 a.m. I woke up and someone was coming into my room. And I said, no, this is a mistake. You have the wrong room. Like, you can't come in here. This is, we're doing quarantine. Like, this is not how it works. And he was like, no, I have this room. They're doing 2 people to a room now.
In recent weeks, as Taiwan's government has sought to move away from its COVID-0 stance, Taiwan has seen a surge in COVID cases. This led to strangers in quarantine having to share a single hotel room. But Anders, speaking from the hotel suite bathroom, said the most frustrating part was not even being told to expect company.
No one had informed me. I looked on my phone on the line out from the hotel staff and from the nurses they have assigned to this hotel. There was no notification.
25-year-old Bevan also began isolating with a stranger late last week after testing positive.
The room was pretty tiny, and I would say the whole space was less than 15 square feet, and the bed-to-bed size was about 70 centimeters apart to each other.
This week, the government announced mild or asymptomatic cases could isolate at home. But this doesn't apply to Anders and Bevan. They'll need to remain quarantined in the hotel for a maximum of 10 days. They both say the government has poorly communicated the quarantine process and policy shifts.
Every time that I have been called on the phone, it's having to repeat a litany of the same basic information, of what is the phone number we can contact you at? What is what is your address? And so it gives me the impression, at least, that there's no communication through different bureaus or branches or anything.
TaiwanPlus reached out to Taiwan's health ministry for comment on the stories of Anders and Bevan, but has not yet received a response. Now the government has obviously changed the policy, so people who are diagnosed with COVID can now quarantine at home. How do you feel that, if you were diagnosed maybe 4 or 5 days later, you would be able to go through this process at home?
I think that the administrative or like the Kafkaesque kind of world that you get thrust into as soon as you report yourself as positive, I don't know that the trouble that brings is worth any benefit that you get from these services.
Regret over reporting a positive test result is a sentiment shared by Bevan, even though he's been transferred to a room with his real-world flatmate, who has also just tested positive for COVID.
It kind of make me wonder if I haven't report anything myself, I could have just quarantined at home and none of this would happen. I don't have to go through any of this. I was thinking I was being responsible and I was self-report, trying to do the right thing, but somehow this really felt like a punishment to me.
As Taiwan moves away from its COVID-0 strategy, health officials are expecting cases to rise rapidly in the coming weeks. But for Anders, trust in the government's handling has already been damaged.
I think that this experience has really kind of destroyed my faith in the efficiency and the efficacy of the Taiwanese government to manage this.
Until their quarantine is up, it's not just COVID they're facing, but also a struggle for personal space. Chris Marr and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's state-owned National Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology has begun testing its long-range Xiongfeng missile. The missile is designed to hit targets up to 1,000 kilometers away and comes at a time when tensions in the Taiwan Strait are at an all-time high. Jaime Okan reports.
In a split second, Taiwan's night sky lights up and a ball of fire shoots out into the clouds. This is Taiwan's Xiongfeng missile, the country's domestically produced long-range missile. Taiwan's state-owned defense research company, the National Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology, began testing this type of weapon on Wednesday in the east coast of the island, and experts say that its deployment would play a key role in Taiwan's defense.
这个飞弹是在中共确定要武力犯台的时候，要发起之前就先制打击，一次就要发射200枚，才能够造成共军的一些损害，才能够给这个国军争取时间。
China, which has repeatedly claimed Taiwan as part of its territory, has not renounced the use of force to take the island. If attacked, missiles like the Xiongfeng would allow Taiwan to strike back and hit long-range targets along China's east coast.
包括东部战区空军10个军用机场中的9个，然后东部战区海军3个主要基地中的2个，舟山跟上海。 所以是说，可以说东部战区陆海空军、火箭军大部分的驻地都在这个1000公里的范围之内。
On the same day as the missile test, Taiwan reported 11 Chinese military planes entering its ADIZ, or Air Defense Identification Zone. The group of planes included 2 radar planes, 2 nuclear-capable bombers, and 7 fighter jets. This incursion marks over 300 planes entering Taiwan's ADIZ this year. Whether or not the incursion was a response to the missile test, Taiwan continues to bolster its defenses, preparing to do whatever it takes to protect its sovereignty. Klein Wong and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
The Red Bull Flugtag competition is coming to Taiwan for the first time this year. The contest involves testing homemade flying machines. And how far can they go? The answer, as you can see, is usually not very far. But for most people, that's not really the point. Participating teams design the most creative human-powered machine they can, and the best team gets the opportunity to travel overseas to watch other competitions. Flugtag, which means Flight Day in German, was first held in 1992 and has toured 94 cities and held 168 competitions. Organizers recently announced that they're bringing Flugtag to Taichung Harbor in central Taiwan this September. It will be the first time the event's held in Taiwan and the only one in Asia this year. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Ethan Liu. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with pictures of animals at a Mexican zoo beating the heat with ice-cold popsicles. Take care, and I'll see you next time.